You probably remember the feeling. That crisp $20 bill tucked inside a birthday card from an aunt you haven't seen in 3 years. Or maybe the heavy, metallic jingle of a jar full of quarters you spent months scavenging from the couch cushions. There's a specific kind of electricity that runs through a kid's hands when they realize they have buying power. But usually, that electricity has a very short fuse. It's a burning a hole in your pocket kind of feeling. You're already at the toy store in your head before the card is even back in the envelope. You're thinking about the Lego set, the video game, the overpriced candy. Basically, money is just a temporary guest passing through your life on its way to someone else's cash register. For most of us, that was our entire childhood financial education. Money was a thing you got, and then, almost immediately, a thing you didn't have anymore. It was a zero-sum game. And honestly, it's a pattern a lot of us carry into our 30s, 40s, and beyond. We see a balance, we see a thing we want, and we make the balance go away. My name is Mark, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth while others stay stuck in the same survival mode patterns for decades. I've spent years looking at the why behind our bank accounts, the weird, invisible scripts we write for ourselves when we're young that dictate whether we'll always be chasing the next paycheck or if we'll actually build something that lasts. And what I've realized, and what we're going to talk about today, is that there is a very specific, almost magical threshold in a child's life. It's not $1 million. It's not even 1,000. It's the first $500 they save and, more importantly, keep. It sounds like a small number, right? Especially in a world where a decent used car costs 20 grand. But that first $500 is the most expensive money your child will ever earn. Because it isn't just currency. It's a neurological rewiring. It's the moment their brain stops seeing money as a coupon for stuff and starts seeing it as a tool for freedom. If we can get a kid to hit that number and understand what it represents, we aren't just teaching them to save. We are fundamentally altering their relationship with reality. The shift from consumer to owner. The first big thing that happens when a child hits that $500 mark is a total identity shift. Basically, they move from being a consumer to being an owner. Think about it. Up until that point, every dollar a kid gets is usually earmarked for an exit. I have $5, that means I can get a bag of chips. The money is just a middleman. But when that balance starts to climb, when it hits $100, then $200, then finally $500, something weird happens in the kid's brain. They start to value the balance more than the items they could buy with it. I remember talking to a friend whose 10-year-old had finally saved up a few $100 from mowing lawns and birthday gifts. They were at the mall, and the kid saw a pair of sneakers he'd been eyeing for months. Usually this would be a shut up and take my money situation. But the kid hesitated. He looked at his dad and said, if I buy these, I won't have my big number anymore. That's the shift. That's the owner mindset. Suddenly, the money itself has a utility that exceeds the utility of the object. The kid realized that having $500 in the bank felt better than having new shoes on his feet. He felt powerful. He felt secure. He felt like someone who has money, rather than someone who is just waiting to spend it. Honestly, most adults never get to that point. We're so used to the dopamine hit of the purchase that we forget how much better the dopamine hit of security feels. Why does this matter? Because it builds a floor. When a child learns that they are a person who keeps a $500 balance, that becomes their new zero. If they spend down to $400, they feel a sense of loss, not because they lack a toy, but because they've lost a piece of their identity. You're teaching them to be uncomfortable with being broke. And, man, if you can make a kid feel uncomfortable with a zero balance early on, you've basically won the game. The locus of control and the death of Ask Mom. The second insight here is about something psychologists call the locus of control. It sounds academic, but it's actually pretty simple. It's the degree to which you believe you have power over your own life. For most kids, money is an external force. It's something mom and dad have. It's something that is granted or denied based on behavior or the alignment of the stars. "Can I have this?" is the default phrase. The power is entirely outside of them. They are essentially financial subjects in a kingdom they don't rule. But when a child has $500 of their own, money they worked for, money they chose not to spend on candy, The "can I have this" changes to "should I buy this?" That's a massive psychological leap. You're handing them the steering wheel. When the power to say yes or no belongs to the child, they start to internalize the consequences of their actions. If they buy the overpriced plastic toy that breaks in 3 days, they don't blame you for letting them buy it. They feel the sting of their own decision. I think we underestimate how much kids want agency. We think they just want the stuff, but what they really want is the feeling of being an adult, the feeling of making a choice that matters. That $500 is their first taste of true autonomy. It's a small-scale laboratory where they can fail safely. They can learn that a yes today is a no tomorrow. They learn that they are the architects of their own bank account. And, it's funny, once a kid realizes the money is theirs, they often become much more frugal than you ever were. They start looking at the price tags. They start asking if the warranty is worth it. They start acting like someone who actually cares about their future. The threshold effect. Why $500? You might be wondering, Mark, why $500? Why not $50 or $5,000? Well, $50 is too easy. It's a video game. It's a nice dinner out. It's gone in a blink. It doesn't require a long-term strategy. It just requires a bit of patience. On the other end, $5,000 is an abstraction. To a 12-year-old, $5,000 might as well be $1 billion. It's so far away that it doesn't feel real, so they lose motivation. But $500? $500 is the sweet spot of financial reality. It's enough money to buy almost anything a kid actually wants. A new console, a bike, a fancy pair of headphones. But it's also enough money that losing it hurts. It's also the first time they see the power of the pile. When you have $10, you can't do much. When you have $500, you start to see doors opening. You can start a small business. You can buy better equipment for your hobby. You can actually invest in yourself. There's this thing in behavioral economics called loss aversion. We hate losing things more than we like gaining them. Once a kid reaches $500, they've spent enough time and effort to get there that they develop a, quote, protective instinct over it. They've built a tiny fortress. And once that fortress is built, they're much less likely to tear it down for something trivial. They've crossed a threshold where the money has become a capital asset rather than disposable income. It's the first time they realize that money makes money, even if it's just a few cents of interest in a savings account, or the ability to buy a lawnmower to make more money. They see the cycle. They see that the $500 isn't just a pile of paper. It's an engine. The marshmallow test in real time. We've all heard of the marshmallow test, right? The famous study where they put a marshmallow in front of a kid and tell them if they don't eat it for 15 minutes, they get 2. It's the ultimate test of delayed gratification. Building to $500 is essentially a multi-year marshmallow test. Every time that kid chooses to put $5 in the jar instead of buying a soda, they are exercising their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning and impulse control. They are literally strengthening the neural pathways that lead to success in adulthood. But here's the kicker. Delayed gratification is a muscle, and muscles need to be exercised. If a kid never has their own money to manage, they never get to work that muscle. They just have parents who say no for them. And no from a parent isn't a lesson in self-control, it's just a lesson in obedience. When the kid says no to themselves because they want that $500 goal, that's where the magic happens. That's when they learn that later is better than now. Honestly, I've seen kids who were total spendthrifts transform into disciplined savers just because they had a clear, tangible goal. It's not about the money. It's about the habit. It's about the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can want something and not have it immediately, and that the world won't end. In fact, the world gets better because of it. The language of earning versus having. We also need to talk about how we talk about this. Because as parents or mentors, we often mess up the language. We say things like, "You need to save your money," which sounds like a chore. It sounds like we're telling them to hide their toys away. But if we change the framing to "you're building your freedom fund" or "you're becoming an investor," the energy changes. When a kid reaches $500, we should celebrate it like a graduation. Because in a way, it is. It's a graduation from financial dependency to financial literacy. I remember a story about a kid who hit his $500 goal, and his parents took him out to a business dinner to discuss his portfolio. It sounds a bit silly and over the top, I know, but for that kid, it was everything. It validated the struggle. It signaled to him that he wasn't just a kid with a piggy bank. He was a person with capital. We have to move away from the idea that money is dirty or adult stuff that kids shouldn't worry about. Money is just a language for value. And the sooner a child learns to speak that language fluently, the less likely they are to get lost in translation when they hit the real world. That first $500 is their first sentence. It's them saying, "I understand how this works." The compounding of confidence. The final, and perhaps most important point, is that this isn't just about money. It's about confidence. There is a direct correlation between a person's financial stability and their overall sense of self-worth and agency. When you have a cushion, even a small one, you walk through the world differently. You aren't as desperate. You aren't as easily pushed around. For a child, knowing they have $500 in the bank gives them a quiet, underlying sense of, "I'm okay." If their bike tire pops, they can fix it. If they want to go on a school trip, they can contribute. They aren't a bystander in their own life. They are a participant. This confidence compounds. A kid who can save $500 is a kid who believes they can tackle other hard things. They've proven to themselves that they can set a long-term goal and achieve it. They've proven that they have discipline. They've proven that they are the kind of person who gets things done. I've seen this ripple out into their schoolwork, their sports, their relationships. Once you realize you have the power to change your bank account, you start to realize you have the power to change other things too. It's the ultimate life hack. And honestly, as a parent, there is no greater gift you can give than that sense of self-reliance. You aren't just giving them $500, you're giving them a shield against the anxieties of the world. Conclusion. So what do we do with all this? Basically, we need to stop looking at savings as a good habit and start looking at it as a brain development tool. We need to help our kids get to that $500 mark, not by giving it to them, but by creating the environment where they can earn it, save it, and feel the weight of it in their hands. It won't be easy. There will be tears. There will be emergencies where they absolutely need the latest fad toy. There will be times when they want to quit. But if you can hold the line, if you can help them navigate that journey to the first $500, you are doing something profound. You're breaking the cycle of paycheck-to-paycheck living before it even starts. You're teaching them that they are the boss of their money, not the other way around. Summarizing everything we've talked about today, it's about the shift from consumer to owner. It's about the locus of control. It's about the threshold of reality and the muscle of delayed gratification. And ultimately, it's about the quiet, unshakable confidence that comes from having a foundation. Remind yourself, and them, that the number isn't the point. The person they become to reach that number is the point. When you see them finally hit that $500, don't just look at the bank balance. Look at their eyes. Look at the way they stand a little taller. Because in that moment, their relationship with money has been rewired. They aren't just a kid with some cash anymore. They're someone who knows how to build a future. And that, honestly, is worth a lot more than $500. Keep going, keep building, and most importantly, keep talking to them about the why behind the what. I'll see you in the next one.